All you would need to do if you wanted to perform what I showed you at the very beginning is remember the number 4. That's all you need to hold on to, okay? And so this right now is a AMP structure, okay? So it's of the kind at the bottom, okay? And now it ends up that you can do a lot of things with an AMP structure that either leave it alone, meaning you won't upset the fact that you have 4 color pairs, okay? So what I did was, and you could do the same thing. So what I did was, if you rewind the video, after I showed you the cards, and now in my mind I'm just remembering the number 4, I dealt out into 2 piles. Well, take a look at the diagram. What will that do to an AMP structure? What does it do? So the left-right shuffle, that's over here, left-right, LR. What is that going to do to an AMP structure? It converts it to a 2-cycle structure. And it doesn't even matter if you stack left on right or right on left. You give the spectator that choice. Isn't that nice? So maybe they stack right on left. That's just fine. Okay, so now this is a, quote, 2-cycle structure. So in some sense, it looks just like the one down here. But of course, with names changed for the specific cards that are in this packet. But now it has this repeating pattern kind of arrangement relative to the 4 color pairs that we want to preserve in the end, okay? Now there's some wonderful things that you can do with 2-cycle structures and not harm that organization, okay? So here, this is structure preservation, so look down the list here. So there's a number of them, okay? I mentioned that you can do a cut, a random cut, okay? So the spectator could be allowed to do that. That won't hurt the fact that it is a 2-cycle. I also mentioned right below the cut on the table there, something called a Charlier shuffle. And I have a separate video on the Charlier shuffle. This is a very powerful shuffle, a very good one to learn. It's equivalent actually to just cutting the cards at some location. All of the movement of the cards that I just did is equivalent to just cutting the cards somewhere in that packet, okay? So the Charlier shuffle, top to bottom, bottom to top to bottom, bottom to top, okay? And you just repeat that as many times as you would like, and we haven't harmed this 2-cycle. And then from there, if you recall, I did this fun shuffle called the Klondike. This is where you take the top and bottom card off as one, okay? The Klondike shuffle. This is a very common shuffle and very effective in mixing the cards in a way that the other shuffles don't quite achieve. But where would that take us? So the Klondike shuffle is right here, shuffle 14. Well, what I did was I just Klondike shuffled a 2-cycle. Well, that's going to take us to a mirrored structure. Okay, so this is, quote, mirrored now. Okay, what does that mean? Going back to our simplified diagram, it means it looks something like the middle one here, M, where the color pairs of interest to us are found in positions reflected across the center. Okay, so they're in a, quote, mirrored relationship. Well, it ends up that there is a whole host of mixing procedures that will not harm mirrored structures. The most important among them, look at all those M's going down the middle here. The most important among all of them is something called the stay-stack principle. So the stay-stack principle says that if you have a mirrored organization for the packet, for each divisor of the packet size, well, the packet size here is 12. So 12 has several divisors. 2 divides evenly into 12. 3 does. 4 does. 6 does. Okay? So 12 is a very nice number in the field of mathematical card magic. because of all of its divisors. Okay, so what that would mean then is that we can deal these cards into 2 piles with random stacking of those piles, 3 piles with random stacking from left to right or right to left, or 4 piles with random stacking from left to right or right to left, and you can even deal into 6 piles, stacking from left to right, right to left. None of those will harm the mirrored organization of these cards relative to the color pairs we made note of at the beginning. Okay, so that means you truly can ask the spectator, okay, well, let's mix these cards further, and we'll go ahead and deal them out into maybe 2 or 3 or 4 piles. It's really your choice. And then have them choose. And so maybe they'll choose 4 piles now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. With random stacking from left to right or from right to left. And in fact, if you look at the chart over here, the shuffle that we have just performed is referred to as an RC shuffle. So this is where we're dealing into a number of piles where that number divides evenly into the packet size. Well, next to the RC name, there's something written, namely plus J. J there means judicious. And judicious just means that you can stack the piles in more ways than just left to right or right to left. You can perform something I call a leapfrog stacking. Okay, so let's go ahead and just deal out into 4 piles. And so we could stack from left to right or right to left, or you can do a leapfrog. This is where this one leaps over and lands on top of that one. It's kind of a fun stacking to do. This one leaps over that one and lands on that one, and then you can randomly stack these 2. None of that harms the mirrored structure of this packet, which is absolutely amazing. Okay? And then, so after you've performed as many of those dealing outs into 2 or 3 or 4 or even 6 piles if you would like, what I did to finish was I took the cards and I Klondike pairs to the table. And so I did it in such a way that we created this fun little hexagon, if you remember. Okay, I'm just doing a Klondike, but I'm dealing these little pairs into this hexagon configuration. Okay, very good. And then at this point, you can go to the deck, and can you guess what value card I'm going to be looking for? You know, you don't show the spectator the face of the card you've chosen. Okay, so you're kind of looking at the cards yourself. Okay, now if you remember, we spotted 4 color pairs. You remember that? It was 4. I mentioned at the very beginning, we just need to remember the number 4 to the very end. So what I would do is choose any 4. Now most likely there will be a 4 here. It's not likely that all of the 4s have been taken. It could happen. And if it does, then you can point that out to the spectator and say, wow, I'm looking through the remaining cards and I'm looking for a card that has the value that equals the number of color pairs here. And I can't even find that card there. Isn't that amazing? Well, I can tell you right now what it is. And so you could state 4 right now before you reveal these if you like. But most likely you'll be able to find a card of that value. Okay? And then at this point you can say, well, considering all of the mixing that we've done with this random selection of 12 cards, where key choices and decisions were made by you, the spectator, and the fact that I could not possibly know what decisions you would make, I've put down a card in the center as my prediction for something interesting about these pairs. I believe the value of this card that I've selected is equal to the number of matching color pairs in our hexagon. Okay, so how many of these pairs agree in color? Oh, there we go. We got 1 match. Any more? No match there. So we just have one. Oh, we got a second. Okay, so we have two matching color pairs. Oh, we have three. Oh boy, look at this. We're down to, once again, okay, I get even just, now that I've kind of told you ahead of time the value of that, which you wouldn't have to do. You could leave it to the very end like I did in the original performance. But boy, for my prediction to come true, these have to be of the same color. And are they? They are indeed. Okay, so I hope this gives you a sense of the power of identifying hidden structures and patterns in any random packet of cards, making note of that, being clear on which of the three structure types you've decided to begin with, and then as we go through this series, you'll learn which shuffles allow you to, quote, preserve an AMP. Let's say, this is an AMP now, right? It has those color matching pairs. It's almost like we're back to the beginning in some ways. Okay, so which shuffles preserve this structure, which will convert it to a mirrored structure or a two-cycle, where we can do additional fun mixing of those, and which shuffles preserve two-cycle structures, and which ones preserve mirrored structures, okay? And with the list I've given you here on some of the basic shuffles used on this channel, you truly can create virtually countless surprising card effects. So thank you for joining me for this introductory video, and we'll build on what we've started here. And if you want to go more deeply into these ideas, then I encourage you to work through the Hidden Structures Boot Camp series, which is a fun, kind of light series that will ease you into many of the ideas that we will be making use of in this current series. So thank you again for watching.